Hi, my name is Eliza Lambert, and I'm a Career Support Specialist at the Center on Transition Innovations at CTI at VCU. Today we're going to be doing a webcast on supporting students at work, so thank you for joining us. For the agenda, the first thing we're going to do is define job site training and supports. We are going to review what educators are saying, and then outline your roles and responsibilities on the job site. So first of all, let's define what job site training supports are. It's the instruction of job duties, business norms, and workplace readiness skills. These are individualized supports, so they're going to match what the student's support needs are and what their skill set is. And you're using job site training supports to support the student and the business. There are two types of supports. There are direct supports and indirect supports. So direct supports are when you are directly providing support to the students, and then indirect supports are when you're not directly providing support to students, but you are supporting their success still. So let's go over some examples of what that might mean. Direct supports is any time that you're in person with a student, so maybe you are working with them on learning a new skill, or you're even doing a task analysis or anything like that where you're in person. And then an indirect support would be if you were to make a checklist, or if you were to send an email or meet with an employer outside of the students when you're providing support with them. All of those, you're not directly working with the student, but you are still providing support. So we talked with educators all across Virginia, and I wanted to let you in on what educators are saying about job site training supports. First of all, job site training supports are mentors. They set expectations for success, and they facilitate natural supports. Natural supports are just employees and coworkers on the job site who are there to answer questions or just be with the student throughout their shift. Typical to any coworker, but we call them natural supports. Educators are also saying that job site training supports consult with a business. They teach students to advocate on the job, and then they also share progress information with families. So they're communicating with the families, updating families on progress. And another thing that job site training supports do are they can assess for any AT needs, any other types of help that would be great on the job site. So there are three main goals in job site training. The first is to identify strengths and preferences of the students. The second is to identify career interests, and the third is to help the student get towards independence. So you are taking all of these skills that the students have learned in the classroom, and you're translating them to the workplace. So they are becoming independent, they're learning these career readiness skills, and they're putting them into practice. So you have four main roles as a job site training support. The first is as a trainer. The second is as an advocate. The third is as a consultant. And the fourth is a collaborator. For the rest of the presentation, I'm going to go through each one of these four roles that you have as an educator, but also as a job site training support. So let's look at trainer first. You are preparing students for that first day of work. You are helping them by getting their foot in the door. You are going with them to the job site, doing a job shadow with them, and also developing some supports. Thinking about a job shadow, I know this is time that is taken out of the day, but it's important to know what a job's going to be like before day one. I mean, how would you feel if you showed up for work day one and you had no idea what it was going to be like? So it's important to give our students the opportunities to shadow the job, ask questions, and learn some of those skills prior to that first day. Also, when you are on that job site, you can look around and see if there's any need for supports that you can already create. For example, maybe your student will be clocking in or clocking out of their job site, and you know that would be something your student has never done before. So you can reach out to the employer and ask if they had any ideas of, where the time machine would be, if it was on the computer or if there was a physical time clock. And then you could work on developing a support so come day one, the student is prepared and ready to go for clocking in. As a trainer, you're also going to be helping with the logistics. So that includes the uniform and that includes their schedule. These skills, when you are on the job site, they're actually seeing what a uniform looks like. Instead of learning about it in the classroom, they're doing it on the job site. So these are some of the soft skills that you can work on, and talking about how a student comes prepared to work. Do they need to wash their uniform each week? And then as far as schedule goes, how can they prepare at home to be ready for work the next day? Do they have to have a different nightly routine to pack an extra snack or a lunch so that they can be prepared for that job site? And the prerequisites skill training. So again, these are the transferable skills that you are teaching your students so that they can move from job to job, so that they have this career that they are building. And then workplace readiness skills. We've talked about this a little bit so far, but you are helping your student learn their job duties, their daily tasks, their responsibilities. You are that support person who is giving them specific ideas on how to achieve their tasks. And then also you're going over specific business policies, norms, and behaviors. So each business is different, each job site is different, and learning about these skills are so important. Some of your students might have different job sites, so something that you can do is have your students come to a job site and see what that business is like, see what those norms are like, and then go to a different job site with their other classmates and see what their job site is like. But you're teaching about those soft skills that one of the educators was saying, even knowing what to pack and like what to eat in a workplace, what foods to eat in a workplace, things like that. You don't want to unpack a huge 3-course meal for your lunch, but you want to have it more, work ready. As a trainer, this is, again, a role that you already do, is collecting data. We talk about a task analysis. This is an evidence-based practice that you can be using on the job site where you are getting information on your student. You're assessing their skills. You're seeing what level of support you need to be providing. Again, we don't want to over-support and we don't want to under-support. So the best way to do that is with a task analysis where you're seeing how a student does a task and then you're figuring out, okay, what do I need to do to support them in this role? You're also analyzing the data that you collect. You're looking for trends, strengths, gaps, mastery, and also regression. So you can track all of this information and share that with the student, inform them of their progress, and look for these strengths that they have and really emphasize those. Help teach the student what some of their skills are. The next role as a job site training support is teaching advocacy. You're going to be an advocate, and the best way to do it is through teaching it. So supporting your students and becoming a self-advocate, that's a lifelong skill. They're going to be using this in the workplace, in the community. So teaching this in the workplace is really helpful and helps transition students, for life after K-12. You're teaching them to be this self-advocate. Maybe they need to advocate for more frequent breaks, or when they get instruction, they prefer to get it written down and told verbally. That's something they can ask for, and you can support them in asking for these accommodations. As an advocate, you can be an advocate for students' needs and accommodations. So I always have the student present for these types of conversations, or I have them have high input in what these kinds of conversations are going to look like. They might have an accommodation or a support in school that they don't feel like they need in the workplace. I honor that, listen to them, and then you can see how that goes and help them assess, all right, do I need this support on the job? You also provide equitable and inclusive training and treatment. So you are helping the employer in different types of training and different processes that they have in place. So things might not be accessible. And part of your job is you're helping to educate how to make things more accessible, because it's not just for your student, but it's going to make things more accessible for all employees that work there. As a consultant, you are providing ongoing support and guidance, you're providing strategies, and you're providing training. You know your students best. You know them better than the employer is going to know them, than their coworkers are going to know them. So what strategies work in the classroom that you can help teach in the workplace? For example, maybe one of your students has a really challenging time transitioning from one task to the next task. Can you share strategies that you use in the classroom that would be beneficial in the workplace? Maybe that means a checklist that the student can physically check off, and then they know to move on to the next thing. You can also help provide training. Some of these businesses, this is their first exposure hiring someone who has a disability that they know of. So you can provide some training, some education with them too, and have your students participate in this. You are a collaborator. So you're reporting out to help motivate and reinforce. You are highlighting progress and skill development, and you can use this information in transition goals. So families, counselors, other people in the school are not on the job site with the student like you are. So they don't know the day-to-day. They don't know these celebrations, these skill development accomplishments that are happening. So it's your job to help share that out. It's really exciting when a parent or a family member hears of the things their student is doing on the job site they had no idea of. Or, I can even think of in the school, I worked with a family who they had no idea that their child was ordering independently at lunch. That's a skill you can take out into the community. They can order independently at a restaurant. So thinking about workplace skills, what are things that they're doing at work that they can do at home as well, and that they can do to grow their independence and transfer into this career that they have when they graduate. As a collaborator, you're maintaining communication. You're having constant communication with the supervisor, with the employer. It's really important. I can share a story. I worked with a student who I was able to pull back a little bit and actually leave the job at the end of her shift because she was doing so great. After 2 shifts, I checked back in to see how things were going, and her boss said, "Oh, she leaves right after you leave." So I had no idea that my student was leaving work, actually leaving the last part of their shift. And I was able to catch this early and talk about, okay, why are you leaving early? Build some strategies. If you're tired, maybe that's a great time to take a break. Maybe we need breaks before this as well. So keeping that communication is really important. And you help to develop and modify job duties. Sometimes a job can be done many different ways. It doesn't have to be the exact way that it's taught. So if you have suggestions and strategies onto how to restructure a job task, share that. You can help modify that for your student. And you're also there to collaborate and problem solve work-related issues. Not every job and every day is going to go perfectly. Sometimes you're interacting with coworkers that you might not get along with. So it's important to help students work through that and process with them and come up with strategies. So your role as collaborator is you're really this glue that holds all these different pieces together. And then thinking about providing education and training, sharing expertise about effective strategies. Again, you are expert in this. You're coming into a place and you're teaching other people on supported employment, on how to include people with disabilities in the workplace. Engage natural supports and mentors that exist in the place of business. So what I like to do to engage just coworkers or natural supports. What I like to do to engage them is bring them over when I'm teaching instruction. So for example, I had a student who was learning a new task. They work at an outdoor center, and they were learning this new task, and I had their coworker come over and teach this new skill. I said, I don't know how to do this. Can you please teach it? So then I could provide support for that natural support and say, okay, that was awesome. Thank you for going through the directions step by step. That's a really great way to explain this task. So you're creating these relationships with the student and their coworkers as well. All right, so thinking about these 4 roles, think about the trainer, the advocate, the consultant, and the collaborator. What are your strengths? What areas are you really great at already? And think about what are some areas you can improve on. Meet with your team and talk about what experiences you need to get to improve in these areas. Some things to keep in mind. Support should be a student-centered and directed process. So you are keeping the student at the center of that process. When you're advocating on behalf of a student, remembering what their wants and needs are. When you're developing tasks and thinking of things that students can do on the job site, think about their interests and what they want to be doing. And I want you to know that you are integral to student success. You are truly that support that's going to help these students get experiences and transfer these into other areas and develop their career. Please visit us at the centerontransition.org. So it's centerontransition.org, and look at the website. Take a look around. We have training, we have different resources, tips, fast facts, and different courses that your students and you can take too. And please follow us on social media. We have a website, centerontransition.org. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and an email, YouTube. Please follow us and see what other videos and trainings we have in store. So that is all. I just wanted to thank you again for taking the time and learning about job site training supports.